Knowledge is certain. Knowledge is permanent. Knowledge is an absolute certainty. Perception is a judgment. It's an interpretation. So perception is interpretation. Knowledge is the truth. So we do perception. Everybody in here has a perception. That means everyone in here has an interpretation. So all you're seeing right now is what? Your interpretation. Your interpretation may not necessarily be knowledge. Your interpretation may not necessarily be the truth. So we need to know the difference between perception and knowledge. Perception is judgment. Perception is judgment. Perception is judgment. Perception is judgment. Perception is learning. Perception is learning and judgment. Perception is learning and judgment. And knowledge is beyond judgment and it's beyond interpretation. There are some things that are just flat out true, no matter how you interpret it, or no matter what you believe. There are some things that are beyond your belief that are just the truth. So we are going from fearful perception, or what we would call false perception, right, to loving perception, which we call true perception, to knowledge. First, I fear it, then I have a loving perception of it, then I know it. Wow. So you don't jump from complete fear and confusion to knowledge. You go from I'm scared because of what I'm telling myself and what I am seeing to, oh, I feel peace about what I'm telling myself and what I'm seeing, to what is beyond that, which is certainty of peace that never ends. So our ultimate goal is to move beyond what? Perception to knowledge. That's right, which is the same as saying interpretation to certainty. Think about this. Absolute certainty. How would it feel to have absolute certainty about something? I mean, you know, one of the few things that people tend to have absolute certainty about at this level is they're pretty certain that we're going to die. Most people will say that really quick. Well, the one thing you can count on is death. That seems to be the one certainty that we can count on. Don't know how to break it to you, but you don't die. Right. You drop your body. You don't die. You are not your body. But that's a whole other thing. All right? But what we're talking about is how do we go from a fearful perception to a loving perception in the body. So we change our perception. So what would be the loftiest aim that we could possibly have? Changing our perception. Changing our perception. When you allow yourself to get the information to come back out of you, that's when you remember it. So what would it take for a new perception to show up? Well, we were told that what would take a new perception to show up is to be willing to have an honest look at your shadow, the stuff in you that you don't particularly like, the stuff in you that you kind of feel a little fear or guilt about. Let that stuff come up. Nod at it when it comes up. Look at it through the perspective of that's just your call for love and something you learned in the past, and let it go. Nod at it, let it go. How would that look? I'm angry. Okay, that's how I feel right now. I feel angry. Let it go. Oh, I'm feeling a little depressed today. Okay, let it go. I don't make a big deal out of it. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, what am I going to do? It's just so horrible. I feel depressed. What's going on with you right now? I feel a little depressed right now, but I know the truth is that's just my call for love, and I'm the innocent child of God. I'm an infinite being, and this too shall pass. That's how you deal with it. You don't beat yourself up about it. You don't attack yourself about it. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. On the way to feeling good all the time. On the way to feeling good all the time, you're not going to feel good all the time. So what happens is that we tell ourselves just because we're ready to learn the truth, we should be happy every second, and the minute that we don't, then we condemn ourselves and beat ourselves up about that. Stop it. Stop it. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to feel good all the time. You're not going to like people all the time. You're not going to like people. You're not going to like yourself all the time. On the way to liking yourself all the time. On the way to loving yourself all the time. If you already knew, and I already knew how to have complete bliss every second, we would have no need to study into this. We would have no need to be here tonight. Let go of this idea that unless you're happy every moment, the world is about to come to an end. Okay?
Yeah.
Why is it that I go through so many moods? Why do we go through so many moods?
To change your perception.
A very simple reason as to why we go through so many different moods. We have constantly changing interpretations about who we are and what's going on. A mood change is an interpretation change. A mood change is an interpretation change. A mood change is an interpretation change. This morning I'm interpreting that, wow, this is a beautiful day. Things feel so good. Everything is great. This afternoon I'm interpreting that something didn't go right today, and now I'm upset. The only thing that changed was your perception, which is your interpretation. So how do you have a stable personality? How do you have a stable mood? How do you have stable happiness? You use the same interpretation consistently. Because it's your interpretation that's affecting how you express yourself. Oh. So the highest level of consciousness that you can get on is the level of consciousness that you recognize it's nothing but your interpretation that's in fact affecting you. There's nothing but my interpretation that's affecting me. Only my interpretation is affecting me. So acknowledge that you are instrumental in this class showing up. Acknowledge that you are instrumental in this book showing up. Acknowledge that you are instrumental in everything that's happening in your life that's improving you and everything about your life. Acknowledge it. It wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And I certainly wouldn't be telling you that you were innocent if it wasn't for you. You're here, and this is happening because you want it to happen. It's here, and your innocence is being witnessed to you because there's a part of you that wants to know it. Acknowledge that. There's a part of you that loves you so much that it brought you to a place that you would be told that you are spectacular, that you are strong, that you're not weak, that you're loved, that you're connected to spirit. Acknowledge that.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Did somebody freaking hear me? Somebody actually wants to believe that it's okay for them to acknowledge themselves? I wish you could see y'all's faces. You was like, it's like I was cussing you out. That's good news. What's your question, brother?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment because I just feel like still like such a beginner with all this.
You are.
Because I know all this and I go out into the lab and boom, 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 and I get down and then I know this and then I'm like,
none of us can relate to what he's saying, can we? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You poor thing, you. Sometimes you hear this and go out in the world and sometimes you still have challenges and don't use it.
Yeah.
I did too. In 1981, January 5th, I didn't pay attention to the truth. It's not about. That's why I'm going to say again. The way to have peace is not to go out there expecting that you are going to do it right all day. See, that's why you're tempted to beat yourself up, because you're telling yourself that you're going to do it right all day. You're not. You would feel much more peace if you would tell yourself, I am not going to practice the truth consistently at all today. I'm not going to love anyone completely, and I'll be pretty much insane most of the time. And if people don't do what I want them to do, I will hate their guts. And I'm not a very nice person most of the time. I'm just fooling everybody. They think just tell the truth about your ego. Tell the truth about your ego. Tell the truth about your ego. I'm telling the truth about my ego. The fearful, separate part of me doesn't know how to love. It doesn't know how to give unconditional love and forgiveness yet. No one, listen to me very carefully, anyone that gets into any kind of relationship with me in any kind of way, I shall not be Christ-like all the time. Just get that straight. Very clear. All right? I will be happy sometimes. I will be sad sometimes. I will make errors sometimes. But as these things come up, I'm gonna give a little nod to God. I'm gonna give a little nod to my stuff. I'm gonna have some compassion with myself. Then it will dissipate. It dissipates from compassion, not from judgment and analyzation.
So have
It dissipates from compassion, not from analyzing it.
I gotta write that down.
Compassion. So then it goes on to say, and I'm opening it up for discussion and question in just a minute. Some things so what I'm going to do as I go through the course of love, I'm going to be going a little bit faster. And what I'm going to do ahead of time is I'm going to go through the chapters and I'm going to focus in on what I consider to be the most powerful parts of the chapter, rather than trying to go through every little thing. Okay, because if I did it that way, we would probably die before we finished the book. And
We're not gonna die.
yes, it's like it would take too long. And anyway, I want to get to the juicy stuff. All right. So the first step, he says, the first step in doing this is changing your means of perception to that of right-mindedness. Okay, so how do you go from wrong perception to right perception? Well, the course of love says through right-mindedness. So you want to have right what? Mindedness. Your willingness to accept me as your teacher will help you to accept my sight as your own and thus be right-minded. Okay, let's say you thought a tree was a horse and you were with someone who knew that the tree was a tree. If you accepted their perception, would you have the correct perception of the tree? If you accepted the perception of someone who knew the truth, would you then also be correct? Right. So that's the whole thing with the Holy Spirit, Jesus, all higher beings. They're saying, look at things the way I'm looking at it. If you look at things the way I'm telling you to look at it, you'll finally be looking at things correctly. I'm the one who knows the tree is a tree. You're the one who thinks the tree is a dog. So you keep expecting it to roll over. It doesn't. And now you're really upset. It's upset because you're wrong in what you think it is. Why am I upset with my financial situation?